Good evening. Pastor Justin, could you please give the invocation?
Did you already do this?
I did not.
Good evening, everyone. Madam Mayor, Council. In the midst of these holidays, with the new year upon us, I hope you all. Thank you again for serving us and our community. Whether you seek help as you carry out your callings or you need wisdom and grace for your personal lives and relationships, I encourage you to pray and to seek the Lord's face. And so let's pray together tonight. Psalm 62 says, "For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress, I shall not be shaken. Trust in him at all times, O people, pour out your heart before him, for God is a refuge for us." So God, our Maker and Savior, you are a rock and a refuge for all who call upon you in sincerity and truth. We thank you for the goodness and mercy that you show in our lives every day. May we see your goodness and mercy in Freeport, in our state, and in this nation. We seek your blessing tonight upon the work of this council as 2023 draws to a close. And as a new year is upon us, would you grant each of them knowledge for the decisions before them and for the work ahead of them, and the wisdom to know what is fitting and good. Help them to weigh plans and solutions before them. Help them to be fair and just. Help them to be motivated by love and goodwill for all. Give them the satisfaction and joy that comes from such work, and help them to find rest and refreshment this season. And as these verses that I have read encourage us, move them to trust you and to seek you as their refuge, to pour out their hearts before you. So I ask all this for the work tonight, Lord, but also for the days and weeks ahead. And all this we ask in the name of Christ the Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Miller. Alderpersons Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Here.
Simmons is absent. Parker.
Here.
Stacy. Shadle.
Here.
Sanders is absent. And Sellers.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman Parker. Item number 1 is approval of the agenda minus executive. We will not be having executive session tonight. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 2 is approval from the minutes from the regular meeting on December 4th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Clem. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Public comments, there are none on agenda items. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and acting as one motion unless there's a member of the council that would like to have something removed for further discussion. Seeing none, we will have the approval to receive and place on file the committee, board, and commission minutes from the Finance Committee of the Whole dated November 6th, 13th, and 20th, 2023. The Fire Department report, the Police Department report, and the Building Permit report for November 2023. Also, the Greater Freeport Partnerships monthly report dated December 13th, 2023. The approval of finance bills payable in the total of $1,550,997.46, and the approval of payroll for pay period ending December 2nd, 2023, in the total of $597,006.95. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem,
Yes.
seconded by Alderman Shadle. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy. Shadle.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the Battle of the Badges winner, presented by the Salvation Army.
Thank you. Currently, the Salvation Army is at 50% of its goal. And for those that are still out there giving money, the kettles end at Christmas time, but we collect money through the mail and walk-ins all the way until the end of January. So now on to the business of what helps us out is the Battle of the Badges. And when the money was counted, they count the paper money and then the change gets sent to the bank, and you guys were like within $12 or so of each group. Real close. But the police raised $1,078.16, and the fire department raised $1,174.91. It's close, but it's 96.75 difference for a total of $2,253.07. And that's great because this year we're helping more children. We're at 575 children that'll be helped this year. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and congratulations, Fire Department.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is the second reading of ordinance 2023-72. Could you please read this?
Reappropriation ordinance for fiscal year 2023.
Thank you. Director Richter?
Thank you, Mayor Miller. At the end of each fiscal year, the City Council amends the appropriation ordinance to take into account necessary revenue and expense adjustments. I updated the memo since we met last, since this is the second reading. I've updated it with a summary. I just briefly go over that. The general fund budget for 2023 increased by a total of $2,010,475. This increase in revenue is due to higher than anticipated state revenues. And also what increased was the amount of interest received on the city's investments. Those can be, approximately $1 million more in state revenues and $1 million in interest. The most significant expense increases were in the street department, fire department, and then the transfers to the road fund and the landfill fund. This is just a cash transfer that'll assist those funds next year. They'll just stay in the fund balance. Other funds with significant budget adjustments included the motor fuel fund due to the increase in local road work this year, the Meadows TIF fund due to additional tax revenues received, the street improvement fund due to that increase that I just referenced in the general fund, the fire improvement fund, this was a correction due to the timing of receipt of when we received the aerial truck. The fire and pension funds, due to an upturn in the financial markets in 2023, they had originally budgeted much lower numbers than what we actually are receiving in 2023. The landfill closure fund, due to an increase from the transfer from the general fund that I just mentioned above, and then water and sewer fund corrections to remove capital outlay amounts, as these items we've correctly moved to an asset line item. There is additional detailed descriptions further in the memo, but at this time we request that council approve the suggested supplemental appropriation adjustments.
Thank you. Questions, council? Alderman Clem?
Just out of curiosity, Director Richter, is there anything that you've seen that's out of line or has gone up or down considerably that we should really know about? Really, you talked about the interest, you talked about the landfills, that kind of stuff. You've hit the highlights. Is there anything in there that you see that's out of line or any major changes?
I mean, the items that I suggested to me are the outliers. They're the changes. We discussed a little bit at at the COW a couple meetings ago about putting some money, excess revenue that we would have for the year and transferring that to the street fund, so we'd have that to work with next year. And the landfill, because we know that there's a huge liability in the landfill, and that will just help bring that liability down. But these items that I've mentioned in the summary are the big ones to me.
Thank you.
Alderman Stacy?
The airport grant. Forgive me. The airport grant. How much money was received in the airport grant?
The airport grant, I just need a moment to actually look up where we are, exactly where we are right now. Money still is trickling in from the state. We've had a few payments that were submitted in May that we know are not going to be paid until January. We just spoke to them, and that's a significant amount of money. That's $100,000. So what's going to happen with that, once they pay in January and we have the final amount of what their share is, that's going to be booked as a receivable, which means that revenue will show up on your income statement when you see the final December one. We accrue that money back. That is not in there right now. That's significant for the airport. It's very unusual for the state to be that far behind. And it sounded like it was a logistical issue on their end as far as the one grant. But I can look up certain numbers if there's a certain line item that you're looking at.
There isn't.
Anything else? Alderman Stacy, were you okay with that? Can we move forward, or you want to wait?
Yes, we can.
All right, then if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the passage of ordinance 2023-72?
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
excuse me here, Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
and the ordinance passes 6-0. Ordinance approving special use permit application at 1725 South Im Boulevard, submitted by La Patrona Freeport LLC to examine the special use of B3 Commercial and Wholesale Business District to allow restaurants, taverns, packaged liquor stores, and any other establishments selling alcoholic beverages for consumption on or off the premises per section 1254.01B12.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff received a special use permit application from La Patrona Freeport LLC, which is the former location of the Axes Restaurant, which closed its doors in 2012. So it's been vacant for quite some time. And in processing this application, we presented it to the Zoning Board of Appeals on December 7th, and the Zoning Board of Appeals recommended approval by a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And on December 14th, the Planning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as the Planning Commission, staff recommends approval. And also want to make a note that there has been a request to suspend the rules by the petitioners. And the reason being is that they are ready to go, and they are trying desperately to open up before Christmas, which is a big deal to their business model. They have some pretty big plans going on, so they personally requested to have this suspension of the rules for those reasons.
I would ask that there be a motion to move ordinance 2023-74 on to the next regular scheduled meeting.
Oh, second.
Motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Discussion, council?
Just,
Alderman,
Mayor, if I could, as we all know, the big asset to this is that we've got a building that's 2012 that's back on the tax roll and back on providing service to Freeport, so it's a really good deal on everybody's part.
Alderman Parker?
A motion to suspend the rules. Second.
All right, we have a motion Made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Monroe to suspend the rules. Suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by a 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, could you take the roll on the suspension only?
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and Monroe.
Aye.
The motion to suspend passes 6-0.
Thank you. Then before you, council, would be the final approval for this ordinance. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and Monroe.
Aye.
And the ordinance passes 6-0 as well.
They will be very appreciative. Thank you for that. Item number 8 is the first reading of ordinance 2023-75. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving special use application at 115 to 125 South Chicago Avenue and affiliated parcels 16 to 18 East Spring Street and 20 to 22 East Spring Street, submitted by Tabali Enterprises, doing business as Lindo Theater, to examine the special use of a B2 limited service business district to allow restaurants, taverns, packaged liquor stores, and any other establishments selling alcoholic beverages for consumption on or off the premises per section 125401B12.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is involving the Lindo Theater for reference to everybody. Just to speak practically for a moment here, staff received a special use application from them to serve alcohol at their location, and in reviewing their permit, one of the things that was discussed by the LLC that operates their organization, they stated that there are 15 other theater locations all serve alcohol on the premises. So that was one of the motivations behind this move, as it was sort of a corporate move on their part. So staff received their application, and on December 7th, we presented it to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they recommended approval with a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And then on December 14th, we presented it to the Planning Commission, and they recommended approval by a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as the Planning Commission, staff recommends moving this ordinance forward.
Entertain a motion to move this ordinance forward.
So moved.
Second.
Maybe a motion made by Alderman Clem, right? Seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion. All right, then we will place that on the next council meeting in January. Move on to item number 9, which is the first reading of ordinance 2023-76. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving variance application at 1060 Mesa Drive, submitted by James and Shannon Hauser, to examine the variance application to seek relief from section 1252.02 E2A, side yard on each side of the principal building of not less than 8 feet.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff received a variation application from James and Shannon Hauser at their property at 1016 Mesa Drive. And so what's going on here, and I pulled this up, I guess I'll dim the lights. And can you go to the next page for me? Keep going. So this page here kind of shows the addition to the left of what they're looking to build. And then if you scroll down to the next page, that's an elevation view of it. That would be looking north. And then here's keep going down, Kurt, if you don't mind. This is the page that's going to kind of illustrate what is happening here. So if you rotate, he can't rotate it at the moment. Can you rotate it? And then zoom in a little bit so we can see. Rotating, would have to rotate one more time. That'll work. We can work. Yeah, you had it, the last one. Sorry. Yep, that's perfect. Okay, so if you look over here, they're doing an addition that's going to be a 12 by 22 addition, and the current ordinances in their zoning district requires them. If you look, and it's hard to read, there's 5'9" showing the location of their proposed garage addition to the property line, and zoning rules require that to be 8 feet. So essentially what they're asking for is a variation. Instead of being what would be 8 feet, they're asking to be 5 foot 9 inches, which is essentially 6 feet. So that is the proposed request. They're looking to add garage space. We looked at the area. Many of the residences in the area have 3-car garages, and this would fit with the area. We presented this variation to the Zoning Board of Appeals on December 7th, and they recommended approval by a vote of 5 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And also on December 14th, we presented this to the Planning Commission, which also recommended approval by a vote of 6 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. And in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission, staff is recommending approval of this variation request.
Director Duckman, were there any neighbors that were in opposition?
We had no opposition on this, none.
Motion to move it forward? Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Parker to move ordinance 2023-76 on to the next meeting. Alderman Monroe.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Moving forward, I would like to ask the staff to include the memo with the drawing so we can see it. This is very hard to read.
Yeah, it is.
So moving forward, if we could get those so we can review them over the weekend, that'd be much nicer. Thank you.
Yep, will do.
Any other discussion? And we will move on to item number 10, which is the first reading of ordinance 2023, well, without lights, I think it says 73.
Ordinance authorizing sale and/or disposal of certain personal property owned by the city. Tonight we have Police Department office equipment.
Thank you. Chief Schenberger?
Thank you. The Freeport Police Department is in possession of outdated and unusable property taking up space in the evidence garage at the Freeport Police Department, 320 West Exchange Street, that needs to be disposed of. Recycling and disposing of the accumulated property that can no longer be utilized will free up storage areas at the city yards and at Central Fire. The Freeport Police Department is requesting to recycle as much of the unusable property as possible and dispose of whatever is left over. This property consists of just old and outdated desks, office chairs, bulletin boards, miscellaneous ceiling tiles, wooden shelves, an old medical, pharmaceutical disposable box, fingerprinting machine, just things that we don't use anymore, and it's just taking up, it's all taking up space, so.
Entertain a motion to move ordinance 2023-73 on to the next meeting.
So moved. Second.
A motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Discussion, council. Seeing none, we'll move this forward for the next meeting. Number 11 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-98. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving city's property, general liability, and workers' compensation insurance policies through Arthur J. Gallagher and Company.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The insurance marketplace in general has sustained record-breaking losses over the last several years. The marketplace for municipalities in Illinois continues to evolve. This is due to the following concerns. Midwest property losses continue to skyrocket. Large claims due to wind, hail, flood, lightning occur. Insurance carriers' appetite for property in the Midwest is also shrinking. The current law enforcement landscape is also a concern. Interest rates affecting reinsurance investment and employment practices and claims, whether that's discrimination, sexual harassment, wrongful termination, continue to rise. Public entities are a strong target for ransomware attacks and cyber hacks. Our insurance broker was able to obtain an overall increase of 21%. We anticipated this increase due to a higher number of work comp claims, addition of cyber insurance, and the addition of a $3 million fire apparatus. City premiums for 2024 are as follows. Property insurance increased $112,000. Package policy $209,000. Auto $92,000. Umbrella policy $65,000. Crime $2,000. Cyber $23,000. Work comp $417,000. Brokerage fee $52,000, program admin fee $32,000, so for a total cost of $1,007,226. To help offset this year's increase, the city's received $24,000 in safety grant from IPRF, and staff recommends moving forward and approving Resolution 2023-98.
Manager Boyer, what's IPRF? What's IPRF?
Illinois Public Risk Fund, they're our insurance carrier.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-98.
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Clem?
The only thing I would add in looking at this, and you look at the prices of it, unless you've shopped for insurance or your insurance carrier has called you lately, you're going to get a big shock. We have a condo association that we've worked on trying for about a month and a half with one or two carriers that will do a policy at about 30% more than last year. So, you know, you hate to see it go up. You understand why. Guess what? We're paying for stuff at other spots, but there's, I know how it used to have, and Gallagher's handled this, and there was a tremendous savings when this was first brought forward. So I guess this is part of the things you don't want to see, but you see them.
Anything else, council? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 12 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-89. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving a master service agreement with Fairgram to provide civil and environmental engineering services for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you, Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City of Freeport has various annual engineering needs. These can include topographic study, infrastructure, system mapping, updating of utility GIS systems, construction survey and staking, elevation records, and many more items. This is a consultant that works performed outside the individual specific projects, contracts that are brought to the council and required by specific funding sources. Freeport requires an engineering firm that provides support with a staff of technical professional licensed engineers that special in these diverse areas. The City of Freeport annually approves various engineering contracts for annual engineering needs of the city. The engineering support is for all the departments of the city staff on an as-needed basis. This contract allows non-standalone projects requirements to be performed on a day-to-day need by the city. It also allows the city staff to be reactive to our daily needs and requirements as the city infrastructure and emergencies arise. This Fairgram contract is the same as prior years as the provided by the engineer. And I will just make a mention that the 2023 Master Services Agreement was not completely consumed. It was used as needed, and is very helpful and timely throughout a heavy construction season. So staff requests council move forward with this resolution approving the Master Services Agreement for 2024.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion. Alderman Sellers. Sorry, I just totally forgot your name.
That's all right. Just wondering, with, you know, all the different jobs that, and the things that Fairgram will have to do, plus doing the things that we already have in place, do we look at adding any other engineering firm to come in and put bids in to help on different projects or anything, or no? How do we do that?
Yes, that is something we could do as far as a statement of qualification for engineering. It's something we can do on future projects. This particular contract is very versatile and allows staff to make on-the-fly decisions related to projects that we're already working on, whether that's in-house projects that need a little bit of help, or whether that's another aspect of an existing project that needs some specific services. So really all this is this supports our staff, and it supports the various contractors and stuff out in the field, so that we're not waiting on other projects, or we're not hanging up projects because we need answers to a specific question in the field.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I see pros and cons with this type of an agreement. The pros are Fairgraham knows the city as well as any engineering firm that's out there. The cons are that you end up in a situation where you could have, essentially engineer diagrams that are specifically guided to certain contractors. So you end up in a situation where, you're kind of walking a line. I would like to see a second contractor brought in for this type of work, so that we have multiple points of contact, and that, potentially it could help drive business to two companies, because we do put a lot of eggs in one basket, and it does concern me a little bit that that may, cause issues or conflicts, kind of moving forward.
There's no other discussion. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 13 is the adoption of 5 IDOT MFT projects that need to be closed out. Could you just read those all in for one motion, please?
Resolution R 2023-90, supplemental resolution for MFT Project 0900138001 LS, Stevenson Street, which was Sheridan Avenue to Mary Avenue. Resolution R 2023-91 is a supplemental resolution for MFT Project 11-0015200 RS for various streets. Supplemental Resolution R 2023-92 was for MFT Project 14-0016100 RS, which was Harlem, Galena to Stevenson, Lincoln Boulevard, Whistler to Route 20, and Stevenson, Walnut to Locust. Supplemental Resolution R 2023-93 was MFT Project 15-00000-00-GM, which is General Maintenance. Supplemental Resolution R 2023-94 was for MFT Project 16-00000-00 GM, General Maintenance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt these 5
So moved.
resolutions?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Clem. Discussion. Manager Boyer, did you want to recap any of that?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Just to quickly touch base, so we had approximately 10 years of projects that had not been closed out on our MFT account. We've gone back and we've closed those accounts out. These are the last few that required closing out, and this will now bring our MFT balance current with our records, and it is a requirement of IDOT to get these things closed out in a timely fashion. However, just to give you an idea, the rough the date of each one of these projects are the first 2 numbers in the project numbers. So when you see 14, 15, 16, these are projects that were not closed out during those times. So we've gone to the effort of closing all these out. These are the last few that were on the books, and we need to just move forward and approve this resolution.
Is there anything that happens if we don't close them out?
Yeah.
Is that, yes, so if the IDOT auditors were to come through and find that we hadn't closed them out, we would be essentially not allowed to access IDOT funding for any projects until this was closed out. Since we were doing it before an audit and we've been active on it, then IDOT's been working with us to get those closed out.
Thank you. Questions, Council? Alderman Stacy?
Yes, for adoption 91, 2023-91. What streets, it just says various streets. What streets did that cover?
Which section are you looking at?
2391,
91.
which says various streets.
Those would have been materials, whether it's cold patch, whether that would be chip seal for various streets around town that required the maintenance. So This would have been like a chip seal maintenance contract with IDOT.
Darren, did you want to add to that?
So I can't give you the exact streets without going back and pulling documents, but in the past, when programs, previous engineers, when they did street programs for the city, they would call them various contracts, and so it meant it was various all over the city, which is what Rob said, it's maintenance, so it was maybe crack seal, maybe it was the slurry seals, or maybe it was just pothole patching or repair areas, and they just call it a various maintenance contract, and whenever you see that, that's just a various contract they put out every year of just annual maintenance that was done on a small project. And all of these documents, the money's already been spent, but the former engineers never ran the final resolutions to close it all out. So the real takeaway from it, if we don't close these projects out, then we'll have to put the money back in the MFT account because we've already spent it out of the MFT account, and that's what we found through the ledgers. Which is typical, and we're not the only city in this predicament. IDOT came to the city and said there's, you know, the majority of people don't have their projects closed out, so we're trying to be, you know, get this back to 2020. Actually, we already closed 2022, so the only project that would be open still is 2023, and we still have the Pearl City Road project to be done, and that's a 23 number, so it wouldn't be closed out to them. But this would bring us up to date as much as possible, and it would get the IDOT account and the city account balanced.
Alderman Stacy?
Okay, so what is the difference between various streets and general maintenance?
Various streets would be work that was done on the streets, and general maintenance is materials like hot patch, stone.
That's what he just said for,
Various streets would be where a contractor would install them. The general one is where the city buys the materials and stores them and uses them. So the city crews use the general maintenance materials. The various street was contractor work that was done.
Manager Boyer?
Alderman, essentially, we're just cleaning up the records here. We're just cleaning up what's gone on the last 10 years roughly. So on our MFT account to make sure that there won't be any issues going forward. So there is detail on these, but as far as the detail is concerned, it's somewhat academic since none of us were here when it happened, and we're basically just trying to clean up the bookkeeping now.
Alderman Sellers?
How often, I mean, because you're saying that you want to get this cleaned up because IDOT could come in and da-da-da. How often does IDOT come in that we've waited 10 years and now all of a sudden, you know, how often do they come in to check our records?
So they used to check every year, but about 10 years ago, they made an audit change to where, you know, the state reduced and doesn't have enough staff. So we're getting to the point that they were contacting us, noticing that we had a lot of open sections as a city, and said, hey, can you guys work at getting these closed out and getting the account balanced? Because the difference is it's kind of like when you have a bank account and you're out writing checks, right? And you don't log them in your checkbook. Well, that's kind of what they see because of the closeout statements that are required. They have quite a specific process that needs to be followed for accounts and balances. And due to the age of these projects and the nature of how long that they've dragged back throughout the years, they're working with us to try to get us to a square one so we can move forward and do it annually like we should be. And so, like I said, we've already closed out 21 and 22. So we're really just down to what's still open in 23. So this will clean up our books completely with IDOT District 2, which is what they've requested. So they're working with every local municipality that has open sections, trying to get them closed.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
I,
Shadle?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
All 5 resolutions are adopted, 6-0.
Item number 14 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-95. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving an engineering agreement with Fairgram for maintenance and compliance monitoring of landfills 2, 3, and 4 for 2024.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
The city of Freeport has annual engineering needs for the city-owned landfills number 2, 3, and 4 as part of our required closure process. This contract is required by the Illinois EPA as well as routine sampling, lab analysis, reporting, and upkeep of the landfills. Fairgram is the city's landfill licensed engineer. The city of Freeport approves a required landfill engineer contract for the annual needs of the 3 city-owned landfills. Fairgram is licensed Freeport landfill engineer, and their environmental team specializes in landfill monitoring and closures. This contract requires numerous amounts of landfill sampling, lab analysis, leachate system upkeep, and reporting that the city cannot perform. This year's contract reflects an increase in required Illinois EPA required sampling parameters and professional certified lab testing costs. Sampling and analysis for the contract is over 50% of the total cost. Please note that there's an alternative that is identified in the contract that may be needed in the 2024 by the Illinois EPA requirements of the leachate system. Illinois EPA is considering mandating the remaining 7 leachate wells have all current pumps installed and discharge connected to the leachate system. This added cost is identified if pushed forward in the 2024 year due to mandatory requirements. Staff recommends City Council to approve the landfill engineering contract with Fairgram.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-95?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Discussion. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted, 6-0.
Item number 15 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-96. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing emergency construction debris hauling by Fisher Excavating.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
The city of Freeport creates construction debris during all water, sewer, and street maintenance repairs. This waste is commingled with gravel, concrete, asphalt, and dirt as it's stockpiled. The construction crew are out of areas to stockpile and dispose of the materials at this time. City staff requests a time and material cost to remove the commingled construction debris from the Brick Street construction garage location, including disposal. Currently, there are over 3 years of stored waste material, and the construction crews are out of room as emergencies arise for more debris storage. It is estimated that there are over 1,500 cubic yards or 75 semi-loads needed to be removed. Few dump locations will accept commingled waste anymore for fill without full separation of solid materials, which is very costly to perform. Fisher Excavating has responded to our request and will accept the debris as is for local fill. They have indicated their crews can perform removal as early as January 2024. Fisher has agreed to a price of time and material not to exceed $20,000 for the complete removal, loading, and trucking and disposal. City staff has evaluated this proposal and agrees that's a fair proposal for removal of the disposal of the construction waste material at this time. Separation of solid materials would be far more costly and time consuming for our crews. This funding for the disposal will come from the water and sewer budget. It's staff recommendation City Council approve Fisher's proposal for debris removal.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-96?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted, 6-0.
Item number 16 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-97. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing the write-off of water and sewer balances aged 7 years and older.
Thank you. Director Richter.
Thank you, Your Honor. This item was discussed briefly at the previous Committee of the Whole. The Finance Department is requesting the write-off of utility balances over 7 years, which totals $53,936.35. Just a reminder, the reason why we write off balances is so we're not overstating the revenues that are brought in by the utility. But I also want to point out that even though these are written off, the water department can see that someone left a balance on the account. So for example, if someone comes back to the community after 7 years and we have written off a balance, we are able to see that and request that of the resident if they come in to set up new water service. Also, I just want to mention that bad debt is kind of a routine process to, we do this annually. I also wanted to mention that the revenues that were taken in back in 2016 when these debts were, or when these balances came onto the account, we were bringing in over $8 million in our utility at that time. And I'm requesting to write off less than 1% of those balances at this time. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-97?
So move. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Parker. Discussion.
I just have one.
Oh, sure.
I know with the ladies that were here last week, and some of the names that were on the list were landlords, and they had made a request that to make sure that the names are in the landlord's name versus, something about landlords because there was some names on there. How do you handle that with landlords?
Go ahead.
What I remember that the second person that came up, she mentioned that out-of-state landlords were having their bills mailed to the property address and not to the land where they actually are in California or Texas, I think she mentioned or was mentioned. I can't really tell them where to mail their bills. I mean, they could, maybe the tenant's paying them and they put it in their name. It's, we don't, at least at this point, we don't have a policy or requirement that a bill needs to be mailed to a specific location like that. The only other thing I remember, that was the second thing that the second person that they mentioned.
Okay.
That.
Question. So you're telling me that the name of the landlord is on the paper, and they might be saying send it to the
Yes.
property?
Yes.
Okay.
We, if I may, we do have a lot of landlords that are set up differently. The business address might be in California, but they have a billing service in, another, Carroll Stream, Illinois, and that's where the bill goes. But they do also have other options. They can be emailed as well. And they can be sent out when the bill is actually, I get mine by email and I get it by paper just as a control in my area, just to make sure I'm seeing what everyone else is seeing. But that's an option as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Stacy?
However, doesn't that conflict with the ordinance that says the landlords have to be within, I think it is 20 miles, or they have to have a realtor over the property?
I believe that's correct. They need to have the manager. I'm not sure if someone else can elaborate a little better, but the manager, like you say.
Okay, so when they're given addresses in Texas and California, how are we going after a landlord when they're already in violation to our own ordinance?
I don't think that's related to the billing address. That I don't think that.
Attorney Zito?
Well, I'd have to look at the specifics of the ordinance there, but I'm assuming that we do require that there be a local manager there that lives within maybe a certain radius there, but I'm probably guessing that our code doesn't go the next step. It doesn't write and say, and the bill must be sent then to the local manager. It probably just says, hey, where do you want the bill sent? And if the landlord says, send it to here, and they just write whatever they want to, whatever address they choose to write in, honestly, we don't really have a way to check. Even if we were to say, send it to the property manager, they could list whatever address they want necessarily. Let's say it's just local. We don't know for certain, if it's going to get there. I'm not saying that landlords are doing that, but it's hard for us to verify at the time that they are filling out their application, right? If a homeowner were to say, oh, send me my bill here, but it's really to their, a parent's address or another address, we would never know. We wouldn't be able to verify that at the time of the application. That's where it gets a little difficult there. But we certainly could take that next step and say, hey, if there is a local manager, that the bill also has to, they have to provide that address as well so that we could send the bill there too. But we'd have to do that amendment to the ordinance because right now it doesn't speak to that.
Manager Boyer?
I just wanted to make one comment, and that's one thing we can work on as we come into next year. There's some ordinance we're reviewing, and this is a point we can look at.
Director Richter, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Just that we do have address changes all the time. We have snowbirds, that are giving us an address, and, we don't verify that they're in Florida you know what I mean? We have to take their word.
Madam,
Alderman Stacy?
that's okay.
I did. Well, last week, my focus was more on the businesses that are still in operation. And we're writing off thousands of dollars for these businesses that's in full operation. And I don't get that. I don't understand that. What is the procedure for even attempting to go after them for the funds?
Attorney Zito?
So I believe, Michelle, and correct me if I'm wrong, that, so for all of the debt, when it's debt, we refer to a collection agency. So the collection agency does try to collect, and then we also send those bills through the state of Illinois, the iDrop program, which says that if they have tax returns or whatever it is, then we can pull our money out of their tax returns and stuff like that. So all those processes are gone through, and then if all of those are unfruitful, it doesn't turn up any way to collect the money. Then if it goes on for 7 years of, collection agency and iDrop through the state and stuff like that, after 7 years, then from an accounting standpoint, this is considered to be aged out bad debt. And to clean up your books from an accounting standpoint, they say write it off. But as Michelle was saying, that doesn't, just because it's written off from an accounting standpoint and a bookkeeping standpoint, doesn't mean that that person, if they ever try to open up a new account in Freeport, we still have a record of that and can say, John Smith, no, you actually, we wrote off debt that was bad for 7 years. But the fact that you're trying to come back now after 7 years, 8 years, 10 years and open up a new account, we can still see that you left a balance. We're not going to open an account for you until you pay that balance.
And you think that they still have accounts? Is that what you're getting at?
No, that they're still in business. That
Without an
there's-
account? Without a water account?
It's like these places are in Texas and California, and how did we get caught up with them anyway?
Go ahead.
Well, certainly, a business can operate from, they can incorporate in Texas and still have a business in Illinois and run that business from Illinois. They're now, granted, they certainly, if it's a landlord situation, they're supposed to have a local manager, right? But the local manager is just there to handle the day-to-day, operations, of collecting rent or this or that. But if a bill is still being sent to Texas, because that's where the owner is, then the bill is going to Texas. And we have to, ultimately, if they don't pay, we have to chase a Texas entity, but out-of-state businesses are allowed to do business in the state of Illinois all the time.
Alderman Clem?
The other thing that was mentioned last week by the realtors that could be a process, but it can also be a costly one and a hard one to find a lot of it they mentioned putting liens on the properties. And there you get in a situation, how much money do you owe before you hire a lawyer to put a lien on a property and you end up financially coming out in the deal? But it's something that's also a tool, so I think what we've all talked about and we've all agree on, hey, maybe there's some other things we should look at doing it differently, and I think, you know, after the first of the year, you know, with Rob's help and with everything, we could move forward on some of that.
Alderman Monroe?
Yes, Mayor. I guess one of the troubling things, I agree with Alderman Stacy, is that, you've got these management groups, you've got banks, you've got legal means to send a letter to collect. This is a very simple process. It happens every day in business. Somebody doesn't pay, they send the letter, it goes out certified mail, it's received. They don't want to go to court. They don't want to be sued. But some of these are sizable amounts, not individually, but like there's one management group that's on here multiple times, and over time it adds up. And the one point I'll make is that this is when water and sewer rates were significantly less than they are now. So we really need to get ahead of this as we go through the next few years, and I think come up with a better way to collect, especially from these management groups, from landlords who own multiple properties, those types of things. And I think that's where, going back to the conversations we had last year with the Landlords Association, coming up with a way that is effective and is sensitive to the timeliness of the payments, so that we can get them off of we're not getting to the 7-year point, because by the time you get to 7 years, it's significantly harder to collect. But I think we've got to get ahead of it. We've got to come up with a better plan, and I don't think we have that right now.
Director Richter?
I would just like to mention that a year ago, council approved a billing and collection specialist for my department. So just like you said, 7 years, it's hard. You got to get them right when the final bill comes out, and when it's just past due. 7 years is, you can't pick up the torch then and go. Part of it too is, are we going to pay for attorney's assistance to take someone to a small claims court or something to go after those balances once they get to the 5, 6, 7 year point? But I do want to just mention that the billing and collections person has only been with me a year. The new utility billing supervisor also has just been with me for a year. So we do have more to do. We do. But I want to say that we are diligently working on coming up with those new things to implement.
Alderman Sellers?
I just need a clear up real quick, and then I do understand we can talk about this later, but we don't turn their water off?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
The thing is, what happens with the bills is we have those base bills that even if I turn your water off, you're going to get an $85 base bill the next month.
Okay.
So if you just, walk away or from your property or something like that, it will go from, the water actually has to be turned off, and then for 12 months, you'll get the recurring base bill, and then after the 12 months, it drops to just a storm charge of $4 on a regular residence.
Alderman Monroe?
Yes, and coming back to the attorney's fees and things like that, having worked in multiple large corporations, a lot of times what they'll do is a form letter that goes out that the attorneys approve, and it goes out with a signature on it. It's then, I would say 9 times out of 10, on the corporate entities, they then deal with that pretty quickly. The ones that are left over are the ones that you'll struggle with a bit more. But, from a cost perspective, I think that's not as expensive as you would think it would be.
Alderman Stacy?
I hope this is not a stupid question. So do we find ourselves like 2017 to 2024, it's going to be another 7 years. So every year, are we finding ourselves writing off because 7 years?
Yes, we do. This is a yearly process. So every year I will come back and ask to write off, the next year that happens.
Do you know what the year before was? You have any idea how much we wrote off?
Last year, it had not been done for a few years before that, before I was here, and so it was much more significant. I think it was like $300,000.
Oh, my God.
So I am making it priority to every December to bring this to council.
Okay. I'm not saying that what you all are attempting to do is not good. And I realize you now have help that you didn't have before. But we've got to do something different. We've got to. Because it's not working to our benefit.
I would just like to say, businesses the utility is run like a business. It's an enterprise fund, and they're run like businesses. And businesses have write-offs. This is less than 1% of all the revenue that we charged that year. Can we do better? Yes, I agree with you. Is there more things we can do? Yes, we are trying to, what else can we squeeze in down, in the billing department? I agree.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 6-0.
Item number 17 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-99. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving letter of intent to execute a joinder to the contract with Brycer for backflow preventer annual inspections.
Thank you, Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Illinois regulations require public water supplies to maintain active cross-connection control programs to protect the safety of the water consumers. To this end, the city, by way of the state plumbing code, requires backflow prevention devices on cross connections. These devices must be tested annually. The city wishes to contract with a compliance management vendor to handle sending out letters and tracking compliance of testers and backflow assemblies. Management of backflow assembly testing compliance was one of the many items on the plate of the Public Works dispatcher. It has not been given the attention it needs, and with changes in the state regulations, we do not have the manpower to adequately manage it. There are a number of companies that offer these services. Discussions were held between a few of these companies and members of IT, Fire, Public Works Department. In those discussions, it was learned that the company that we currently contract with for fire suppression system testing compliance also offers backflow testing compliance services. Since more than half of our backflow devices are part of a fire suppression system, it makes good sense to work with a single vendor for these related services. The purpose of this resolution is to expand the existing scope of services with Brycer to include backflow testing compliance in addition to the sprinkler system compliance. Other water systems in the area, including Rockford, Loves Park, North Park Water, all use backflow compliance vendors. Backflow compliance vendors all operate on the same model. They charge a small fee to the plumbers for submission of backflow test results, and the fee charged covers the cost of providing the service. There's no cost to the city. Staff recommends approval, as it will make the city more efficient and compliant with state regulations at no additional cost to the city.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-99?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Clem.
Whatever.
Shadle?
Shadle? Discussion. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sellers? Clem?
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 18 is reports from department heads. Finance?
And nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Community Development?
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Public Works?
Couple quick notes. Leaf season will end this week. The guys are making their final pass around town. I saw them out today myself. We did the second round of soil analysis down at the wastewater treatment plant. We're just waiting for results that we should have in January. And other than that, happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Fire Department?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Last week, the fire department was quite busy. On Wednesday morning, we responded to an apartment building fire. 6-unit structure with 2 units affected. It was a ground unit and a second-story unit with doorway right next to the first one. So when our companies got there, heavy smoke conditions were presenting from the roof and the ridge vent area. They made entry to both front doors. They saw fire in the unit, the ground unit to the right, and also heavy black smoke coming from the stairwell of the unit adjacent to it. So as they were approaching the upstairs unit, they sprayed water in the hallway of the first unit, went upstairs, and as the lieutenant and the company were making their way, lieutenant's foot went through the floor. He was trapped in there, fire shot up. Fortunately, the ambulance crew was there with him. They weren't on another ambulance call at the time. So they were able to spray water on him, hosing down the flames coming up. Then he was entrapped. His air bottle was entrapped in the wires that were running through where the hole presented itself. The fire had burned from below, and as he stepped on top of it, he went through. Anyhow, a mayday was declared over the radio. Crews responded, got him quickly out of the hole where he fell through. Fortunately, no injuries to the firefighter. We were quickly able to cancel the mayday response, and we were able to extinguish the fire. So where it was located was ceiling level of the first floor, floor level of the second floor. It was electrical in nature. It got up in there and burned a hole from underneath, essentially. So we're fortunate with that building. We were able to make a rather quick extinguishment before it got into the attic space, and we would have had a different outcome had we not had timely response. And then on Friday afternoon, another apartment building fire. This was a room and contents fire, which we believe at this time is attributed to candle use.
Candles?
Candle use, yeah, burning candle.
Thank you. Police?
Thank you. I have 2 things tonight. Last week, Alderman Sellers and I had a conversation about the need to bring awareness to our community regarding fentanyl-related harm that's affecting our country nationwide. Freeport isn't immune from this, and we are losing members of our community. It's important to emphasize this epidemic does not discriminate, and it's affected people of all ages, races, and socioeconomic statuses. What we're seeing here are counterfeit pharmaceutical pills that look like oxycodone or hydrocodone, street drugs like cocaine, heroin, MDMA, and methamphetamine, all containing lethal doses of fentanyl. Just 2 milligrams of fentanyl, the amount that can fit on the tip of a pencil, is enough to kill an average American. According to the Drug Enforcement Agency, over 110,000 Americans died from drug overdoses in 2022. In our city, every Freeport police officer and Freeport fire paramedic have been trained to use Narcan and carry Narcan while on duty. This alone isn't enough, and we need to bring awareness to this issue and stop the unnecessary deaths from occurring. Also, on December 9th, the Freeport Police Department held our annual Shop with a Cop event at the Freeport Walmart store. The Freeport Police Department's been organizing Shop with a Cop for around Christmas time for about 30 years, as far as I can. Don, you might know.
Probably at least that long, yes.
This year's event served 21 children from our city, and it couldn't have been possible without the financial support from businesses, organizations, and citizens in the city of Freeport. The success of Shop with a Cop was a collaborative effort between the police department, Walmart, the Freeport School District, and those who gave financial support. This is a testament to what can be accomplished when we work together and to bring a positive impact to our community.
Thank you. Library?
I just wanted to make note that we will have normal hours at the library on the 22nd and 23rd, Friday and Saturday this week, but we're closed Monday and Tuesday, the 25th and the 26th.
Okay, thank you. IT? Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just wanted to kind of echo the comments by Darren Steekel. Crews should be done with leaf season by the 21st of the month, and we'll be hitting the potholing hard as soon as that gets going. So we thank everybody in the street department for everything they've done, and we just look forward to another construction season coming up next year. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to remind council and the viewing audience that City Hall will be closed on Friday, the 22nd. That would be the observation holiday for Christmas Eve. Also, will be closed on Monday, the 25th, for Christmas Day, and the following Monday, which is January 1st, for New Year's Day. So our next council meeting will be on Tuesday, the 2nd. So just a reminder that please don't come in on Monday for that. So I just want to wish everyone Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Alderman Parker?
I just want to echo that. A Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you.
Alderman Stacy?
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Alderman Shadle?
I just want to add on to what Manager Boyer said with the pothole filling that we're going to have the crews be at. They don't know where all the potholes are. So you can go on to the city website, IQ Works, and please report where they are so that they know where they got to fill them. That will greatly assist them in getting a thorough job done. Thank you.
Alderman Sellers?
I would just like to tag along with what some of Chief said about the fentanyl. I mean, it was so sad to hear a mother, a family, losing a child right over the Thanksgiving holiday for this. So this is something we really need to take and try to find some kind of way to help our children, because it's easy passing out there. It's, so we need to really look at something like this, because I would hate to hear of another 20-year-old losing their life over something so foolishly. And then I would also like to just say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and God bless you all.
And Alderman Clem?
I'd like to thank the two chiefs for the Battle of the Badge. I've been on the Salvation Army Board for a number of years, and Captain Tim and Lisa were, I'm sure, happy to present that award. But just when all of you walk by the Red Kettle, think of what they mentioned, that they're serving more people. We're probably serving 600 meals this weekend for Christmas. There's probably up to about 75 people at noon every day get fed, and they also provide clothing and other necessary items. So as you go by the kettle, think twice, reach in your pocket, throw a little in. Veterans will be ringing once again at Cub Foods this Thursday. Will be the last one, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Mayor. Same thing, holiday kind of spirit. There's a lot of folks that are struggling right now in our community, and I know our pantries are in desperate need of items. Ask them what they need, what they don't need. I know you can make somebody's Christmas with very little effort. It doesn't take a lot. They need food, they need drinks, there's all kinds of things that you can do. And then, I know some parents are struggling with even getting toys. So any of the programs like Toys for Tots, any of the programs locally that you can get involved in, that would be very much a help. We've got the Rockford Rescue Mission, which is down the road from us, that even helps people from our community. So there's a lot of them. So go ahead and reach out, see what you can do, donate some of your time. All of those things help our community, and we help each other out. Great job on raising over $2,000 for the Salvation Army. That is awesome. And I'm looking forward to the pothole filling that's going to be happening very soon. And I would like to give a shout out to all of the homes that have done amazing decorations this year. You drive around the city of Freeport, this has been one of the better Christmas seasons as far as lights go. Some impressive displays. So thank you for your spirit and your holiday cheer. Merry Christmas.
That will leave us with item number 22, which is public comment, and I know that the clerk has an email to read.
This is from Chris Eilders, Freeport resident. Hello, I apologize for continuing to beat the same drum, but the mayor, city manager, or council has not addressed or have chosen to not address the disparaging remarks made to a citizen of Freeport by City Councilman James Monroe. I do not believe that a half-hearted and vague apology is satisfactory in this manner. Mr. Monroe called a citizen a pedophile. This is the worst accusation and label that could be placed upon someone. This false accusation has placed a citizen of Freeport in a very unenviable and unnecessary position. Sexual abuse is not a matter that should be thrown around with such callousness and immaturity. However, it does show the lack of control and immaturity from the false accuser. Unfortunately, Mr. Monroe continues to show his lack of immaturity, most recently displayed by his latest comments made concerning the proposed crime reduction plan last week's meeting. If I, and most likely everyone else not on the city council, falsely accuse someone of being a pedophile, would lose their job, or at least be reprimanded for that behavior. As far as I am aware, neither of those outcomes has occurred. I believe that Mr. Monroe should lose his position on the city council as well. I would think that level-headed administrators would not want anything to do with an individual who so easily throws terrible and unfounded accusations towards his constituents. Mr. Monroe, you should do the right thing and resign from your position on the city council. And if this is not done, the council, mayor, and city manager should remove him from his position. The people will not allow this to be swept under the rug. Thank you, Chris Eilders, lifelong resident of Freeport.
Are there any other public comments? Tommy?
I want to ask Joey Dickinson, when they're gonna have it open there, right by the,
The Hy-Vee?
no, that other one, it's about the, right by the country, used to be Diamond Days up there.
Not sure, Tommy.
Oh, that thing that's,
I didn't hear what you'd said. Oh.
Are you talking about the new restaurant in the old Diamond Dave's?
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Planning on
I couldn't hear.
Friday. Their goal is Friday.
oh, Friday.
That's their goal.
You want to meet for lunch?
And I wanted to tell, well, James, well, you do a good job speaking about this. And Don Parker had Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Tom.
And Chief was doing good job, doing a good job with the police department, keep them going. And
Are there any other public comments this evening? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
A motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Sellers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening.